Good morning and welcome
Good
to
morning.
Moments with Melinda. I am your host, Melinda Moulton, and today I have Sharon Lifshitz with me. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me.
I am so glad that you joined me today and my viewers. Let me tell my viewers a little bit about you. Sharon is the Director of Development and Communications at Lund. Prior to Lund, Sharon was the Associate Director of UVM Hillel, right?
Yes.
Right? So
hmm
I just want to share with my viewers that I met you for the first time, I believe, at an event which was the Lund Along the Lake event, right? And
Yes.
I was just so captivated by your passion and your communication skills, which is why you're doing communication for, but your passion for this organization. It resonated in that room of about 150 200 people. It was an amazing group, and I was so captivated by you. I knew I had to have you on my show, so I want to thank you, Karen, for being with
My
me.
pleasure.
I also want to tell my viewers that I did serve on the Lund board for I don't know how many years, must have been at least six, many moons ago, and I was the co-chair of their capital campaign a while back too. So I do have some experience with this amazing organization. But let's start at the beginning. I want you, Sharon, to share with us a little bit about your childhood and where you grew up.
Sure. So I am adopted, which is part of my connection to Lund. So I was adopted as an infant. So my birth parents lived in Pittsburgh, but my parents lived in right outside Philly. So I spent most of my time right outside Philadelphia in um, the Northeast, and then we moved to a suburb where I lived. I went to college in Pennsylvania. I'm an only child. And so I think that's an important part of my upbringing and very close with my parents. And so I think a lot of my formative experiences were around, music and the arts, which I think some of my performance tendencies come from, but really had a happy, supportive childhood with great family, really good friends, strong education, and then went to Penn State for 4 years in their main campus right in the middle of Pennsylvania. And then said, I need a new state. I need to get out of Pennsylvania and do something else. And that brought me to Vermont. And I've been here since 2011.
Well, I'm a Pennsylvania girl too, and I got out when I
Yeah,
was
I thought so.
and I got out when I was 17. I kind of feel that vibe from you because it was the center of the Industrial Revolution. And
Totally.
and so when I go back there and my husband says I light up and I think it's from breathing all that over steel
It's
toxin.
different air.
It's different air. But anyway, so who would you say, Sharon, had the greatest impact on your life and your choice in your career journey?
Sure. So I think certainly my parents, they always wanted me to follow my passions. I was a Jewish studies liberal arts major in college, right? Like I don't know how many parents were like, yes, go do this weird thing. Like you don't want to be a rabbi, but like let's go figure it out. And so I think they gave me the time and the space to figure out who I wanted to be and who I am. And I think I've had some pretty powerful teachers and coaches and choir directors that really saw things that I didn't see in myself. Looking back on my childhood, I think I had, and I still sometimes wrestle with imposter syndrome, right? Like, oh gosh, do I have what it takes? Should I be on this stage? Should I be giving this presentation? And I think I just had some teachers that said, yeah, you really should be, and gave me the space to take risks with support. Um, so I think it came all around. And now, my husband, Leon, is my champion and a thought partner and, celebrates with me and holds me during those hard moments. So I think for me, there have been so many people. I'm so grateful to have so many people that have intersected in my life at different times. But that thread of you can do it and you're resilient and you're trust the process has been crucial.
Wow, that's so interesting because as a woman, I think we feel that sometimes that getting through that door is hard. And I've
Sure.
and I've mentored some young women who will say, well, I don't feel like, and myself too when I was young, who will say,
Mm,
I don't have the experience, I don't have the education. And what I tell them is don't wait for the door to open. You need to kick the door open,
right.
walk through.
Right. right?
And I think you're that person. I think you're a person when you see
Yeah.
opportunity, you just go for it. And that's
You
because
just have to. I just get so excited. I love thinking about things. I love asking questions. I think that's been a huge part of my upbringing is just being curious. And then when I'm curious and I have information, then I feel responsibility. And I think it's that responsibility and that drive that has made me say, okay, I'm here and I deserve to be here. And I'm not necessarily the expert. I have a lot to learn, but I do know what I have to offer.
and you're so gifted in what you have and what you have
Oh,
to offer. No, you truly are.
thank
I was
you.
just so blown away by you.
Mm.
You moved to Vermont in 2011 after you graduated from Penn State. So what brought you here?
Sure. So I had done an alternative spring break with Penn State in about 2009. We went to New Orleans and did some work after Hurricane Katrina. And that was a really powerful experience for a lot of reasons. But one was Penn State was paired up with UVM. So I got to meet UVM students when I was 19 years old. And I just felt this connection. And so when I was looking at jobs, I had applied to work at Penn State Hillel. That didn't go the way I wanted to, but I think was a major gift looking back. But there was the job at UVM, and I texted and emailed these friends that I had made on this week random trip 2 years ago and said, hey, I really think this could be good. What do you think? And they said, you have to apply. And after getting the job, talking to my boss at the time, Susan Leff, one of the things that she said was the fact that you kept those relationships, right? That you had this week, that these students trusted you, that they were so excited that you were interested in the position really kind of put you over the edge as a candidate. And I think that relationship building is crucial. So, I wanted a new state. I wanted to do meaningful work. And I will always remember coming up for my interview in Burlington, going to American Flatbread, having a creamy for the first time, and just saying, like, if this job doesn't work out, which I'll be so bummed about, Vermont is going to be a part of my life. And I just had no idea how big a part it was going to be.
So Sharon, explain to us what UVM Hillel is.
Sure. So it is a international Jewish nonprofit agency for college students. Their mission is to help students make an enduring commitment to Jewish life learning in Israel. And it was my job at first, I was an engagement associate to just meet students where they were, get to know them, and then as an associate director, do more around managing the team, helping out with some administrative pieces and some fundraising. And that was really my first kind of step into the development fundraising world.
Are you still engaged in this work with all that's going on over
Yeah, so I joined,
are you still
yeah,
engaged because probably that needs to be happening in a big way right now.
totally. And being a mom of two young men who I want to learn empathy and curiosity and live with strong values, I did join the board of Temple Sinai, which is a Reformed Jewish congregation in South Burlington. So I'm their VP of operations. I show up to things. I'm very engaged in young family work. So I'm one of those people like you gotta talk the talk and walk the walk. And that's been really important for me to also come from a place of listening and recognizing how personal this is, regardless of kind of where you might fall in your own ideas or beliefs or feelings of what's going on. And I just think we're all going through so much. And so if there are small ways that I can help, that feels like a really important use of my time.
You walk through the door, you kick the door down and you walk through.
I
And
sure do.
I love that about you. We need more of you.
I
World.
totally agree.
Really, so true. So in 2018, quite a while ago, but still it's important, you attended the multi-faith remembrance of the Tree of Life victims, and you said that your heart was broken by the tragedy, but you're
Oh,
leaning
yeah.
on your faith to make it through. Talk to us about this tragedy and talk to us a little bit about your faith.
Sure. So the shooting in Pittsburgh at the Tree of Life Synagogue, I was working at Hillel at the time. And there was a student that grew up in Squirrel Hill, not Jewish, but in talking with her, I will always remember being home. And I'm also an emotional person. So there's going to be some tears and I have goosebumps. You know, synagogue, any place of worship should be a place for that, for worshiping, for community, for coming together. And to know that on a Shabbat that was disrupted for folks because of hate and probably ignorance, and to know that there were college students who are away from home for the first time who don't know what being Jewish means to them, but now are fearful of that piece of themselves. I always thought that working in faith-based communities was about meaning making, right? How do we make meaning in this world? I don't care if you thought the Torah was written yesterday or 5,000 years ago or 10,000 years ago. If you can find ways to connect faith to your everyday life and make meaning, I think that's one of the greatest things that we can do. And I think as a leader, that was one of the first times I had to navigate, wow, what am I feeling personally? Like, this is really hard. I'm scared. I don't want to have to call UVM police and say, hey, we want to do a vigil, but we're scared and we need support. And of course they came. Um, how do you bring people together? And what I realized the answer was to stop, to own it, and then to bring people and say, what do you need? And really follow through on that. And I think that to me is a lot of my faith. Is Judaism for me is a religion of the now, right? There's not necessarily an afterlife. So we've got this one chance to do good, to be good, to learn, to own our mistakes, to listen. And for me, that's what faith is. It's that belief in the process, whatever that might be to you. And what I love in having conversations about faith is that even though it looks different, the belief is so crucial. And I think it's really hard to believe in things right now when it feels so dark and it feels so tumultuous and polarized. And for me, that's where that belief in faith has been crucial. Like, I don't have all the answers. Don't get me wrong, right? Like, but what I can do is take a step back and dial in with myself and say, I I have belief
I have,
and I want to be a part of change.
well, you have extraordinary, I mean, I have chills. You have extraordinary,
Mm. Oh,
extraordinary
thank
wisdom.
you.
No, truly. So, um, thank you for that. That was really
Sure.
important for me, very important. So let us move on to talk about Lund. Now,
Hmm.
my viewers, the history of the Home for Friendless Women, which was
Yep,
founded in 1890.
sure was. So I love just starting with that piece of information and watching people's visceral reaction and then having to dial back to say that was innovative in 1890 for these 10 women to come together and say there are people that are not being served, and if we don't do something they will fall through the cracks. And I actually think that's part of Lund's legacy over these 135 years. But I think dialing into that history, knowing that we were filling a need is crucial today. And I love how we've expanded as the adoption landscape has expanded, what families look like, the constellation of families and caregivers has changed and evolved. Lund has been there through it all, and becoming a mom while working at Lund. I mean, one,
And,
I have the connection to adoption, but figuring out that piece has just
and,
been
and we're
crucial.
and we're going to get there. We're moving,
Okay, I'll hold
but
on.
but hold on for just a second because
Sure.
when I was doing the working on the campaign with TJ Donovan,
Mm,
we went out to Wake Robin and we presented out there. And one of the clients out there raised her hand and she said, "My parents used to drive me by the
mm,
home of friendless women and would tell me that if I didn't behave, that I would end up there." And I mean,
yeah.
somebody who was like 100 years old. So, so it was a place where women went when they
Mhm.
got pregnant. I mean, was
Right.
yeah. So
It
that,
was a maternity home for unwed mothers. So, right, you were pregnant, you weren't married, you were on the outskirts of society, and you would go and you would have your baby there. So, there was no going to the hospital. That all happened at the Home for Friendless Women. And one piece I have to share because I think it's fascinating around the history is the stigma of that time was so prevalent that if these women wanted to leave the Home for Friendless Women, they had to put on a wedding ring. So there was a bowl of wedding rings because the stigma was so horrible. I mean, think about that. And there's certainly connections to now, but I think it just helps really settle on what we're talking about in that 1890,
well,
1900s time span.
well, someday I want to go out to lunch with you because my mother, after her divorce to my father, she ended up getting pregnant and had to go to a
Mm,
to give
yeah.
and give the baby up for adoption. Someday
Mm.
I'll share that story with you. Um,
I would love to hear
so
it.
so who was Elizabeth Lund and why was the name changed? Why was it changed from the Elizabeth Lund home to Lund Family Center in 1980?
Sure.
Who's she? Tell us.
Yep. So Elizabeth Lund was one of the 10 founding members, and her husband was the physician. So he was the one delivering babies. So when there became a change, so the Lund, right, that couple really got this whole thing off the ground and running. And so that name change, I think, one, the Home for Friendless Women had a time and place, but knowing that Elizabeth Lund was so central in the creation of that home with her husband, naming it the Elizabeth Lund Home was the right change at that time. And then, as we shifted and evolved our services, we shifted from, to the Lund Family Center, and now we're Lund.
Right. And the whole rebranding was started when I was on the board. So Lund's mission, it's become so broad and inclusive, and so much of the work of this organization focuses on empowering families. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Sure. So one of the things I love is that we put children and families at the center of our work. And when we think about families, whether that's families on their recovery journey or families being brought together by adoption, I think how I even started talking about myself, having someone in your corner that's helping you with the tools and the skills, reminding you that you can do this, and then giving you the space to do it, right? Like that's the empowerment piece. And I oftentimes think about it's not us empowering other people necessarily, it's helping those folks find what's already within them, right? Their strengths, making sure they have the support so that they can thrive. And that looks different for each person. And I think our staff do an amazing job of being in the tops of their fields and then really doing this hard work because the needs that our clients are experiencing are ever evolving and changing and in a lot of ways getting harder.
So, with 135 years of history, why do you believe Lund's work is even more important today than in years past?
Sure. Well, I think if we want a thriving Vermont in the future, children and families need to be taken care of. I mean, we have some real challenges here. We have declining birth rates. We have one of, I think we're the second, oldest state in the nation. So there's a reason that people are choosing to not have babies here. And I think it's because of the lack of supports. I think it's housing. I think it's all intertwined. And so for me, and it's money, right? Like, who do we value? And if it's people that we can't see, maybe that makes us feel better about ourselves. But I really think that if we want a thriving Vermont, we have to invest in Vermont children and families. That is the solution. And if we do that, then we're going to break the cycles, right? That return on investment for us to have this beautiful state for generations to come is only going to happen, I feel really strongly, if we invest in children and families now.
That's fascinating. So on your website, by the way, to my viewers, it's www.lundvt.org. You have 4 boxes or pillars of the organization. Pregnant and need help. Are you a parent seeking help? Are you looking to adopt a child? And would you like to donate or volunteer? So right now, I'm going to encourage my viewers to visit lundvt.org after you watch this interview with Sharon Lifshitz. And then you donate to support this important work. There are several ways that folks can give to Lund. Can you explain those ways that people can give to this organization?
Sure. We want giving to be as easy as physically possible. So you can absolutely make a gift online using a credit card. You can use a donor advised fund, which a lot of folks do. Stock, Bitcoin. I think we could figure that one out. I mean, any resource that you have, time, right? This is and
Volunteer.
volunteers, right? I mean, I just think there's so many different ways, but go on our website, all the information's there, and you can always mail a check too. We'll do it all.
And there's a phone number that if people want to get involved, they can call the organization.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, we love meeting people. That's our favorite thing.
So I really encourage my viewers to get involved. I mean, this organization has been around for 135 years. And I can't say that there's a lot of nonprofits in Vermont that have been around for that many years. But there's a reason for that.
Absolutely.
Because the work is so critical and important.
Right.
Let's start with the 3 cornerstones of Lund. Now that we got through the donation piece. So we have the pregnancy, parental support, and adoption. So talk to us about Lund's impact in these areas for our community.
Sure. So I'll start with adoption because we are the largest and oldest nonprofit adoption agency. We're nearing our 12,000th adoption since 1890. So to know, I know, let's pause for that. Like 12,000 families. Like
That's
that's what we're doing
amazing.
here. Isn't that incredible?
It's amazing. Are they,
So pause
and they're
for
not
that.
all in Vermont, right? They're
Not
all
all in Vermont.
over the
Correct. Right.
country. Yeah.
Yep. So I think that's amazing. If we then think about services for pregnant and parenting folks, I think about our clinical treatment services and our parent-child center services. So clinical treatment, that includes our residential treatment program, the only program in Vermont and one of the few across the country where pregnant and parenting folks can work on their substance use and mental health treatment while actively parenting their young children. So we have, a LENS residential treatment program in Burlington, in the Hill section, this beautiful building that can support up to 26 families, which is incredible. The team there is fantastic, and that is a 24/7, 365 facility, which feels important to own. And then we're also one of the parent-child centers, one of three in Chittenden County, that's really making sure that we're providing education, peer supports, really helping strengthen families, especially with children 0 to 6. So those are kind of the three buckets. It's adoption, clinical treatment, and then parent-child center services.
Wow. Boy, that's a lot.
It's a lot.
That's a lot.
Mhm.
So how can my viewers engage with Lund as a volunteer for the people watching the show? How can they get
Sure.
involved and what are some of the volunteer opportunities?
Absolutely. So, especially since COVID, I think we've been in a space of reimagining what that can look like. But there are certainly a few programs that are in need of volunteers. And anyone who wants to, please reach out to me, Sharon L. at lundvt.org. You can shoot me an email. I always love talking to folks. But one program that I know is in need of support right now is in our correctional facility, our women's Chittenden Regional Correctional Facility, right down the street from us here in South Burlington. We have a program called the Kids Apart Parenting Program. We estimate that there are about 6,000 children in Vermont that feel the impacts of parental incarceration every year. And so we have a program in CRCF that supports pregnant and parenting moms while also supporting children and their caregivers across the state. So that is a program that's looking for volunteers. That's information on our website. We also work to provide respite. So to give our parents that are in our residential treatment program a break so they can work on their treatment goals. And so you can come and hold a baby and just make sure that little nugget's being taken care of. I mean, it's really about connecting folks to people in our community who need supports. And we do have a board of trustees, we have committees. So my job is the magic making, right? And the connecting what people care about and what we can do here at Lund. And I strive to make as many of those connections as I can.
Wow. Amazing. So to my viewers, if you wish to volunteer, please connect with the Lund Center. It's lundvt.org. Go to their website. Now, did Lund lose any federal funding under this administration? And if so, are you concerned about being able to meet your mission with reduced federal funding?
Sure. So I'm very grateful as of 11:57 a.m. on the 17th of July to say we've been okay. Most of our funds that are federal pass through the state of Vermont. Where I would say things could be very dicey and challenging is Medicaid. We have numerous services that support folks specifically, either with Medicaid or we're funded through Medicaid. So I think that's really what we're trying to do is understand where our risks are, being as proactive as we can be, making sure that we're maintaining strong relationships. But I think that's a big piece of the puzzle. That again, kind of like everybody else, we're not quite sure what that will look like and what the fallout will be. So, our antidote to that is stay committed to our mission, support children and families, take care of our staff, and do what we can where we can to be proactive.
And they're talking about not putting the Medicaid through until after the 2026 election, so it doesn't affect, voters' decisions. They're talking about
Right.
that, waiting on
It's just wild. And I was on a call that said it was about 46,000 Vermonters that would lose insurance. I mean,
that.
this is a big deal for our state.
Things need to change.
Mm.
So I just wanted to mention quickly, Liz Gamache just joined as president and CEO.
Did.
May of 2025. So bravo to that,
Yes.
because Liz worked as Preservation Trust, VEIC, and
Mhm.
Vermont Electric. She was also mayor of St. Albans. And I also want to reach out and do a shout out to Wanda Audette.
Oh,
Because she came on into the organization around the time I was on the board, and
mhm.
she handles your adoption program. And her work and that of her staff have been celebrated and acknowledged with 3 Congressional Angel in Adoption Awards and 2 Health and Human Services Adoption Excellence Awards. So I just want to congratulate.
I know.
Um,
Agreed. And she'll be celebrating 30 years at Lund this fall, which is just, we've been so grateful and lucky.
she's extraordinary. I mean, you have
Yes.
so how many staff do you have at Lund now?
About 130 full-time staff across the state. Hmm.
Because you have satellites across the state.
We do. So we are embedded in DCF offices. We have folks that work remotely, but we serve every county in Vermont. So to have that full state presence is important for our service delivery.
I know my daughter and her husband, Mariah and Josh, years ago when they moved back to Vermont, and they were just, young.
Mm.
I think it was before it was well before Rowan, their child was born. It was going to be 21. That you had a program at Brewster Pierce at the school right down the road, and Josh was one of the
Oh.
one of the caretakers, one of the daycare people. So
Mm.
so you guys are all over the state doing your work in all the
We
little
sure
corners
do.
of our state. So bravo on that. Uh,
Thank you.
so this is a statewide organization. So for my viewers who are watching
Right.
this in your community, if you're interested about more information about London, what they're offering, how do you get involved? How do you know somebody who could use these services? Please go to www.lundvt.org. So what does the future hold for Lund and those you serve? How do you see the future?
I mean, I think there's so much opportunity, really. I think that's what keeps me grounded. I think that working with children is one of the best things that we can do. I think there's a lot of love and passion in the state of Vermont that can move things forward. And we have some significant challenges, right? We have a substance use challenge across the state. So, in some ways, I see Lund continuing to be the answer and providing solutions and being a thought leader, not just in Chittenden County, but statewide, as we are a statewide agency. But I really do think that there's a lot of space to do things differently here in the state of Vermont because we listen to our families. They have the answers. They know what they need. We need to listen and, take some risks sometimes to ensure this kind of bright future for all of us.
And you're leading that. I mean, Linda's leading that conversation. It's amazing.
Yeah.
So what about your personal wisdom on how our society, your personally on how our society can grow and evolve in a world with massive climate destruction, severe income inequality, and our citizens' fear of losing our democracy, and in particular, your hope for the future of our species?
Yeah. Oh gosh, big questions.
How much time do we have?
Yeah, right. I know. So I think for me, being able to be curious and ask questions and figure out ways to connect with people you might not agree with feels so important. I can't tell you the number of stories I've heard of family dinner tables where people leave because they can't have conversations anymore. And I think that to me is crucial in how we connect. How can we get out of our own echo chambers and through dignity and difference build new relationships and continue to evolve? That feels crucial. And can we be kind?
Mm,
Like, can we be kind
mm.
to one another? Can we have grace for ourselves in the moments where we find ourselves not being kind? Like, I used to say I'm sorry all the time, and I've tried not to do that.
And
But
done.
when I say it now, I mean it. And I think there's something about modeling that we're not always going to get it right, but we can strive to be better that I feel is missing. And so I would love to be kind, have grace, show up for people. And together, I think that could really move some mountains.
Did you want to be a rabbi?
I thought about it for a second. I
Because
love the idea of
you
being a teacher and
okay,
bringing folks together. But man, Hebrew is hard.
but
It's I'm not good with languages.
you have a wisdom,
Oh,
for your age and I mean, and I know, I do believe in past life. I think you're a very old
mm,
soul, Sharon.
mm,
And I think you've been through a lot to come out in this place, and I'm just so honored that you landed in Vermont and you landed
oh,
at UVM and you landed at Lund and you landed in all of our hearts. And I'm just so glad
mm,
um, that you have. And so thank you for that. I'm going to end now. Our show's coming to an end, but I want to thank Sharon Lifshitz for being on my show. She is the Communications and Director of Development at Lund, um, and just an incredible human being that everybody needs to know, I think, quite frankly. And I want to thank you for taking this time to share with us the story of Lund and of your personal story.
Well, thank you so much for having me and asking such thoughtful questions. And it's just been a pleasure to get to know you too and build this relationship. So thank you.
Let's keep working on that, my friend.
We'll do it.
I have a lot to learn from you.
Oh,
That's
same here.
to my beautiful viewers out there. I wish you a happy day, and I hope you can get outside because it's another beautiful sunny summer day here in Vermont. So thank you for joining me and Sharon, and I will talk to you soon. Bye bye.